There's something I've been seeing for a long time, something that feels hard to speak about and yet necessary. I grew up in the deep South surrounded by religion. Baptists, Pentecostals, Catholics, Presbyterians. I heard people talk about Jesus, about salvation, about heaven and hell. But I also saw something else. I saw people drowning in alcohol, in pills, in pornography, in rage, in entertainment, and in debt. And I started to understand that most people aren't actually living from their own center. They're grasping, seeking something outside themselves to feel safe or saved or seen. They look to a savior, a politician, a guru, a degree, a lover, a belief system, something, anything to escape the ache. But the ache, I've come to realize, is not the problem. The ache is the doorway. It wasn't until I went through my own fire, especially earlier this year when I went to Mexico, when everything I thought I needed and wanted collapsed. That's when I began to see clearly. And I made a vow, quietly, in the stillness that followed. I would no longer chase. I would no longer outsource my peace. I would learn to sit in the fire and stay. What I've discovered is that stillness is the only master worth following. But stillness is also the one thing we are taught to fear. In stillness, there's no one to impress, no theology to hide behind, no guru to lean on, no noise to cover the ache. And that's why it terrifies us. Because in stillness, we meet ourselves. I've looked at the lives of the great saints and sages, Yeshua, Lao Tzu, the Buddha, and I can't name a single one who didn't return to stillness, to silence, and to solitude. And yet, in this world, meditation has become performance. Devotion has become donation. Service has become conversion. This is not what I believe in. What I believe is presence. And what I trust is the quiet truth that arises when everything else falls away. And that's why I created a small book called The Carried Soul, Verses from the Temple of Stillness. Not as a teaching, but as a remembering, as a way to keep myself close to that stream of truth that Donna and I once kindled together, and which still burns in me, quietly, even now. I don't want to be a voice competing for your attention. I want to be a solitary lighthouse for anyone tired of noise, of fear, of false masters. If that's you, then I simply say this: sit, stay, let the deception unravel. Stillness is the true master. Stillness is the true master. But it is the one our world was taught to fear. For in stillness no mask holds shape. No borrowed name remains convincing. They told us to chase, to climb, to perform, to prove ourselves through noise and striving. But the ache that haunts us is not failure. It is forgetting the quiet truth we carry. No temple is needed to return. No priest or savior holds the key. The silence beneath your ribs, that is the Holy of Holies. Sit there. Stay. Let the deception unravel. Let the taboo dissolve in the presence you remember. Stillness is the true master, and it has waited for you all along. There's someone I want to mention before I close. Her name was Mona. She lived here in this town, maybe not known by the world, but known by those she helped. She bought and restored old buildings, not for status, but to bring life back into forgotten places. She planted these oak trees in the park nearly 20 years ago. They're towering now. I learned at her funeral that she once loaned money to the woman who owns the cafe in town, and to others too, so they could start small businesses. No contracts, just trust, just kindness. Mona didn't talk much about spirituality, but to me, she lived it. She wanted people to get their spiritual house in order. And she showed what that looks like through generosity, action, and presence. She was a doer, not in the way I am, but I admired that ability in her. The care, the grounded power to say, "Here, take this, build something with it." We each find our own way to serve. Mine has been through silence, through books, videos, and music. Hers was through action, stone, and oak roots. Both streams come from the same source, and both return there. So may we each find our way home, quietly, honestly, through stillness, or through service, or both. The true Master is waiting in the place you've avoided most. Go there. You will not be alone. In honor of Mona B. Sloop. She planted trees she would never sit beneath. She restored forgotten places and gave them new life. She offered help without spectacle. Alone here, a kind word there, trusting goodness like it was still a native language. She didn't seek to be known. She simply did what was needed. And somehow the world felt more whole where she walked. Mona was a doer, not for show, but from soul. And the oak she planted still grows. Whoever tried to silence her failed, because her presence lives on, in timber and stone, in dog prints and dance, in fields, in memory, and now in stillness. May this offering honor the beauty she carried and remind us that true presence cannot be taken. It endures quietly, powerfully, like Mona.